Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Storytime. Thank you so much for joining me. This episode is taking me back to my late elementary school and I think early middle school. Maybe I was a lot younger. Can't remember. It's all a blur now. But we have Greg Raposo from Dream Street on the show today, and I am so excited. I'm sure so many people, especially girls my age, remember Dream Street and how popular they were. So I'm stoked, and I hope y'all enjoy the episode. All right, y'all, we are back. Greg, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. So we're going to start at the very beginning because I want to know, everybody knows you from Dream Street, but I want to know, there's so much that led up to that from your career. So I first want to know how old you were when you started playing the guitar and what made you fall in love with it.
I actually started at 6 years old, so pretty little guy getting started. I think I just had a natural interest in music and guitar. Actually, specifically, it was guitar. I didn't think about singing or being a performer. I wanted to be a rock guitar player. And my mom actually found an ad for some guitar teacher, like by the train station near our house. I think I was actually her first student.
Oh.
And it was this hippie lady with hair down to the floor, and she was teaching me kids songs. And naturally, you sing along to the kids songs, and that's kind of where the singing, grew from. And her other full-time job was doing kids parties. So after about a year of learning her set lists, basically, she asked me to join her doing these kids parties. So about the time I was 7, maybe 7.5, I started performing at parties with my guitar teacher for kids who were the same age as I was. And yeah, I was probably getting paid in like goodie bags and candy and stuff. But that's kind of where I just started to learn that I loved attention and I loved being in front of people. And I think that's really what fueled the passion, was just my love for attention, really. And the louder I was, or the crazier I was, or the funnier I was, the more attention I got. And whatever would give me more attention, I would go with that. I would just keep going shamelessly. And that's pretty much where it all comes from, I think.
Well, it worked out for you because you've had a long career. And I have to ask for some advice, not for me because I'm 27. I'm past the age of learning an instrument, but I used to be...
That's not true. Not true at all.
Well, wait for this story, though, because...
Anytime.
Wait for the story, because then you'll be like, you probably shouldn't. So I was in 4th or 5th grade band playing the flute. I was like, all right, like most of my friends are playing that. I was an athletic person. I was a cheerleader, but when it came to music, even though I have so many musicians in my family, I could not pick up notes. I had to do like the test in front of everyone playing the song. And the instructor would be like, you got the song down, but not any of the right notes. So just terrible. I gave up and went to chorus. But for your advice, for anyone, especially during COVID, where everyone's kind of stuck at home, maybe there's people that are trying to pick up an instrument or starting and just kind of struggling because of the negativity of just not being able to go. What advice would you give them to keep going and to follow the passion of music?
When you enjoy something and you like doing it, you'll naturally do it more. It'll become less of a struggle to practice if it's something you're really looking forward to doing. So I actually have done a fair amount of teaching guitar, beginner guitar, and singing, and I've worked with a lot of kids doing that sort of stuff. And my approach has always been to teach them songs that they like. I was never big in music theory. In all honesty, I don't really even know music theory myself. But most songs, there's 7 chords. Most songs have 4 of them that repeat themselves, and it's not that complicated. People who don't play an instrument get intimidated by instruments and by music, but in all reality, it's really not that hard. And like I said, if you're doing something that you like, so for example, if there's a pop song that you like, learn it. Teach yourself how to play it. Teach yourself on the piano, on the guitar, and you're going to want to do it more because it's something you enjoy. And believe it or not, that's how you get better. So that's my take on it is rather than focusing on learning your scales and learning all this kind of boring stuff that feels like it's pulling teeth having to practice, do the stuff that you like to do, and then you'll naturally start to figure out the rest.
Well, I can't sing, but maybe I'll take up the guitar and we'll do Zoom lessons. I'll pay you to be my instructor. And then you never know, maybe I could just blow up and actually be good at it. We'll see.
You never know. Everyone starts somewhere.
All right. So then going into your early career, because you had several gigs before Dream Street. So you were the Elvis Kid. And I don't think that's still a thing. So explain to everyone what the Elvis Kid was.
It started at those kids' parties that I had mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. My dad was always a big Elvis fan, so I started learning. Once I was ready to graduate from this old man and old McDonald, I started learning Elvis songs because that's what my dad liked. And I just, I got into it and I would kind of perform and shake the leg and do my thing. And then my aunt was this amazing seamstress. So she made me this Elvis costume that was legit, like silk and rhinestones and like hardcore. And I would put it on, and it was just something I would do like at home. Maybe for Halloween one year. I don't even remember where it first began, but it definitely became a thing. I started doing it at all these kids' parties. It would, going back to the attention, it would draw lots of attention, lots of laughs. So that's kind of how I knew it worked. And then another aunt of mine filmed it, me doing one of these shows sometime, without me knowing, sent it to Star Search, which after seeing the tape called me, invited me on to audition for the show. I ended up getting onto Star Search, and I came in second place. And then from that experience, they hooked me up with a talent manager in the city. At this time, I'm about 9 years old. That's when I started, doing professional stuff. I did a whole bunch of commercials, and I started doing some off-Broadway stuff. And yeah, one thing led to the next. And yeah, it eventually went into Dream Street and rock bands, and still to this day, I'm still doing stuff. So it's just, one thing after another, really.
There you go. Do you ever break out the Elvis Kid anymore, or is that long retired?
So part of my version of the Elvis Kid was that I never felt I was making fun of or trying to impersonate Elvis. I kind of always did it my way, and I took some of the Elvis inspirations, such as the legs and the stuff like that, but I still always sang it my way. I performed it like I would. I ended up getting reached out to from Priscilla Presley, and I don't know how it got back to her, but she invited me to Graceland to perform at the 20th anniversary of Elvis's passing at the time. I think I was maybe 12 or 11, and that was very, very cool. I got a lot of media attention from that, and Elvis's band played behind me. His drummer played the drums for me. The Jordanaires sang backups for me while I was on stage. So that was super cool. I got to meet the guy who discovered Elvis, and I remember, him kind of like coming down to my level and like coming real close to my face and being like, oh, I can see in your eyes, you have the same look in your eyes that Elvis had. And that was a really cool thing to hear. So yeah, I definitely have some, Elvis influence in my roots.
Love that. So now we're going to talk about Dream Street. I actually still have, it happens every time, on my phone. It comes on my shuffle every now and then. I get judged if it's on my shuffle while I'm driving our players to an appearance. They're like, why the hell is Dream Street on your music still? But it was just such an iconic band. And I think for people that maybe are younger and weren't around when Dream Street was popular, I would kind of describe it as like a younger version of Backstreet Boys or NSYNC. Like there was that type of hype around y'all. Would you agree with that, or what would you say?
That was actually part of our gimmick. At the time, Backstreet Boys were number one. NSYNC, we were there as at the rise and fall of NSYNC,
Mm-hmm.
but they were a lot older than us. They were all probably in their late teens, early 20s, and the fan base was between like, as young as 5 or 6 years old to, young teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
And the producers of the group thought it was kind of weird that these young little girls were, fanning over these, older guys. And we're like, there should be a boy band of kids who are their age.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first started in Dream Street, which was actually called Boy Wonder, there was a project before Dream Street called Boy Wonder. I was 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So we were the same age as the people attending our shows. We also had to go through our voice changes and puberty while being in the group, which, brought all kinds of its own complications. But yeah, that was definitely part of the whole concept and the idea of it.
Love that. And with that, I have to ask, because I feel like, well, social media was not a thing when y'all were popular, which would you consider a good or bad thing? Because I feel like now with One Direction or whatever the popular boy groups are that I'm now too old for, would you think that like social media just would have been way too much for you being so young, or do you kind of wish it was around to just like hype y'all up a little more?
So it's a great question. I think there's probably, pros and cons to that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any regrets. I think I'm gonna sneeze. Maybe not. I got a tickle in my nose. Excuse me. Yeah, I don't have any regrets. It's probably for the best that it wasn't around. When you're younger, you tend to do things that maybe later on in life you might not want to remember, or you might want not to be forever like out there in the world. So I probably dodged some bullets there that, I can only imagine the stuff I would have posted or done as a young teenager. So that's probably a positive. But, on the flip side, you have so many people now who are making livings out of being influencers. And if social media was a thing at the time, yeah, there's a good chance that we would have had a much stronger following that to this day we could still be in touch with and doing more with. So, it goes both ways. But at the end of the day, I'm just so blessed and happy with my life as it is that,
Mhm.
I wouldn't change anything for the world.
Good. Well, I was watching some videos this morning just to get a refresher, get prepared, get hyped for this. And there was one video where it was like a backstage with you type thing. I think it was at like a mall or store or something. And you have to be like, I think it said it was 2005 or 2006. And they're just screaming girls everywhere. And you like kind of peek your head around the corner and you just have this like terrified look on your face because you hadn't even shown up and they're screaming. So did it ever get to the point where you were like, okay, I'm still young, like this is a little too much, or did you just soak it all in?
Probably for someone else, it would have been a bit much, but I genuinely always just loved the attention and ate it up. And um, it was very short lived for me personally. We're looking at maybe a 2-3 year span where it was a big deal. Um, so I think because of that, I didn't get tired of it. So I was always really into it, to be honest. I can actually remember. I have pretty good facial recognition. Horrible with names, but I'll like see you a couple times and probably remember you for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
So there were definitely a handful of times where I'd be hanging out at the mall with my friends, especially like what 17, 16, you first get your permits and your licenses. So we were mall rats, and we'd be hanging out, and I would see fans that I'd recognize. I'd recognize them before they saw me or recognized me.
Mhm.
So there were definitely a few times where I would actually approach people. I'd come up from behind them and like, put my hands over their eyes. They'd be like, "What's going on?" Turn around and freak out. I'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I remembered you.
Yeah.
Figured I'd come say hi." So there were things like that were always really fun to do. But yeah, I was fortunate enough that it didn't completely take over my life. I was still able to go shopping at the mall. I think
Mhm.
only once did I go to the mall and it became too much of an issue. They asked me to leave. But again, it was so short lived that it's like wasn't a bad thing.
Yeah. And was there, I know you guys had so many amazing moments. You traveled everywhere, toured everywhere. Was there one moment that stood out to you that all these years later that you still remember it like it was last year?
There's a handful of them actually. But the first one that comes to mind would probably be when we were shooting our music video for It Happens Every Time. It was on the 4th of July, and we had this stage that was built in the middle of this random field that was right on the water of the Hudson. So there were like 3 or 4 huge barricades right behind us where the Macy's fireworks were going off. We were so close to them that as we were performing on this stage, like there were ashes falling on us. I think Jesse got burned. Um,
What?
but it was they had these like airplane jet lights around the stage, and they had these. It was like a pretty big budget music video. Um, it was supposedly the first HD video to like ever have been made. So the guy who made or invented like the HD camera needed to shoot a video to showcase his new HD technology, and somehow was connected with our producers, and they convinced him to do our music video as his HD showcaser. So I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what we were told. But because of that, it was, I think he had an extra budget. It wasn't necessarily Dream Street's budget. It was like this guy's HD camera budget. So we were on like boats, and there were helicopters, and there were vans that were made, and it was like really legit. So yeah, we were on the stage. There were these airplane jet lights like built all around the stage, and these big cameras on booms. And the music was blasting because it had to be loud enough that we hear it over the fireworks. And it was just like a really like serious, loud, and intense moment where all the years of hard work and practicing and you know, it just really felt like it was coming to a head. And I had never, this is kind of random, the movie Hook. I don't know if you remember the movie Hook.
Yeah, it's still on TV.
The end of the movie, when the kids come home and the mom starts crying because she's so happy, right? As a kid, I remember seeing that scene and being so confused. Like, why is she crying? She should be happy. Her kids are home. And, you know, being told like sometimes when you're so happy, you cry. But that never happened to me, and I didn't quite understand it. But there was that moment where we were, you know, shooting and it was loud, and I ended up like getting emotional, and the choreographer got emotional, Chris got emotional, and we all like kind of like had to like cut for a second to like kind of group hug and like just like let it out and like collect ourselves and go back to shooting. And it was just this like really special moment of being just like overwhelmed with happiness and feeling like, you know, like we made it, you know, we did it. And in that moment we did. So yeah, that's just one that comes to mind, but there's definitely a handful of memories that I'm sure will never leave me.
I love that. And I know that music video was played all the time. I don't know if it was Disney Channel or where, but the fact that I can still remember that music video all these years later means that, I mean, it was worth the money. Like, it was played.
Yeah, I mean, they made a commercial out of it, and it was our only music video. So yeah, that's it.
Gotta make it
one
worth
and done.
Well, last Dream Street question that unfortunately is going to be a sad one, but y'all did reunite a few months ago for a sad reason. Unfortunately, Chris tragically passed away. But how important was it for you guys to get together? I think it was through Zoom, but still to perform in his honor and memory.
So I was really pleased with the guys for all jumping into that project without really even having to ask. It was something that I was going to do regardless of anybody else doing it with me. And yeah, I mean, the way that kind of played out was a couple months prior to that was my birthday. Every year I've done this birthday concert for who knows how many years. It's like my annual show. And this year, because of everything going on, it was a Zoom show. And I did this acoustic version of It Happens. That pretty much that exact acoustic version of It Happens Every Time, which comes from my 2-year-old son being obsessed with Dream Street, which is like sounds cute and great and all, but in all reality, it is kind of a nightmare because it's all he wants to listen to. But yeah, at nighttime, I'd be putting him to bed, and he would like want me to sing him It Happens Every Time. So that's kind of where this like lullaby-ish version of the song came from, was literally what I would sing him to bed. And then it sounded nice with the chords, so figured that out. Did it at the live show, had a bunch of requests for it. And I actually told a couple people that I would record it and send it to them because they really wanted it. So it was on my to-do list. I was already actually doing that acoustic version of the song. And then when Chris passed away, it turned into being a tribute for him. So I recorded it myself. I sent it to the guys and was like, hey guys, I recorded this track. I'm gonna put it out there for Chris. I don't know if you guys are interested in joining me on it, like no pressure. but this is how, you know, this is what I'm doing. And yeah, within like minutes, all three of them were, you know, totally on board.
Mhm.
I really hadn't even spoken to Jesse in years. You know, we didn't really stay in touch.
Mhm.
Um, so it was nice to hear from him and catch up a bit. And yeah, I was just really happy with how it came out. And Frankie actually edited the all the video content, and I did the music content. And I had a friend of mine help me to mix it and polish it up. But yeah, I mean, it was super empowering because
Mhm.
it felt like, you know, when I mean, everybody deals with things differently. For me personally, I've noticed a pattern that when I experience tragedy, I tend to turn to music, and it's just something that helps me deal and cope and get through things. So for me to be able to, you know, um, kind of put my focus into that was therapeutic for myself, and then to be able to share it and for it to have come out as well as I feel it did, um, you know, it was really nice. You know, I was really happy to have been able to share that with everybody, to do that for him, to honor him in that way,
Mhm.
and knowing him as well as I do, knowing how much he, you know, genuinely would have appreciated it.
Mhm.
And, you know, in all honesty, have been a part of it. So, you know, I'm glad that it happened. You know, that we did that.
And it's an absolutely beautiful version of the song. The video is amazing. So I know it's on YouTube, but tell everybody where they can go to either watch the video or listen to the song. Like, is it anywhere else besides YouTube?
You know, we didn't really game plan that on like how we were going to release this because it was just done um, maybe, you know, very casually, not organized by any professional per se. So we, you know, we made the video and then all four of us essentially shared it on our own social media pages. So it's available. You know, I don't even remember. I have it on Instagram Live, I think, or Instagram Stories, whatever that is. I'm getting old. Keeping up with all this stuff is a job in itself. But yeah, I know it's on Jesse's page, Jesse's YouTube page. I'm sure each guy has put it out in whichever way. It's out there. You find it. Look it up.
Perfect. Yeah, I recommend everyone goes and listens to it. It's so amazing and so special. All right, so now we're going to talk about your career now. I know you're still in music, which is so cool. I know you're doing solo stuff. So tell me, kind of catch me up on what you've been doing. And I know 2020 has obviously been super difficult for the music industry. I'm in sports and it's been terrible as well. So just kind of what you've been doing this year and what you have coming up.
Well, I have a family. That's, you know, the top priority in my life. Um, and they're really great. I'm a dad of three, which I don't even know like how or when that happened. It feels like I woke up one day and there were three of them. Um, so I, you know, I support my family through real estate and construction, property management. So I wear a lot of hats. That's my day to day. Musically speaking, though, I write every week with a partner of mine. We have a project that we call City Country. I've worked with a few different artists producing and helping them hone their crafts and songwriting. It's more of a passion probably at this point, but I am definitely very active still doing it. I've been working remotely with some amazing musicians out of Nashville, which has been really exciting. One of my best friends, who's also an incredibly talented and successful drummer, just moved out there. So now I feel like I've got like even stronger roots in the ground there.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, there's definitely some new stuff, some recordings that we're working on. We'll probably be releasing some new material, recording some new material, and yeah, I'd say at this point, goal-wise, it's not so much to be this artist, to be on tour. I probably would choose not to if it even came up, just because I've got so much going on at home that I could never leave. But publishing, my partner and I would probably be most interested in writing for publishing, letting other artists take the music and tour it while we collect paychecks from home. That sounds like a more optimal situation. But again, it's something that we love to do. So regardless of how successful or not, it is, we'll always be doing it. It's, a part of my identity. So yeah, I'm really lucky to be able to, still do it and enjoy it as much as I do. There was a point in time where it started to feel like work. So I, stepped away for a bit and, figured it out how I was going to really support a family and focus outside of music. But now I'm starting to get into a place where I've got, some time to devote to it. And in the past 2 years that I've been writing in this writing duo, we probably have over 100 new songs that we've written. And picking out which ones we're going to record now is probably the hardest job. But it's just been a lot of fun. I'm having a great time doing it, and I love sharing it with whoever wants to hear it.
Well, at least you still get to do it. And I know you said social media is not really your thing, but tell everyone where they can follow you.
So on Instagram, it's Greg Raposo Music. On most places, it's Greg Raposo or Greg Raposo Music. And I think if you just write in my name, Greg Raposo, I'll probably pop up, in one way or another. So I'm out there. As much as it's not my thing, I do still put some content down, and I'm definitely reachable. So feel free to reach out. I'm actually going to be doing a live performance tomorrow night with my sisters. I perform with them as well. I'll be on my IG live at 9:00 tomorrow. We're going to be raising money for mental health awareness. And talking about that and just kind of checking in with each other and everybody, considering how crazy things are. I think it's important to just put it out there that, hey, if anybody wants to talk or anything, or just listen to some music, we're just going to be kind of casually hanging out, informally putting on this show and recommending that people donate to, this mental health. I think it's the suicide prevention.
Okay.
There'll be a link on there.
That's like the shirt I'm wearing right now.
Yeah, I guess by the time this airs, it'll probably have happened already. But yeah, you can probably see it on my stories.
I will tune in for it now. You got one more viewer in me. But I think that's so important. And we could do a whole second episode on the mental health and the importance of that, because I know I did read you did a lot with different charities, even when you were young coming up. And mental health is also something that's so important to me. The shirt I'm wearing says keep showing up. The money went to suicide prevention awareness. And like you said, this year has just been crazy. A lot of people are struggling. I have anxiety and depression. A lot of people do. So I think it's really important that you're doing that. And I feel like I need to bring you back on now and do like a post Instagram live show conversation about the whole thing. Like you just started a million more questions now that we do not have time for right now.
Maybe our next one can be with my fan band.
Yes, I'm down. We'll make it happen.
So you'll get a sneak peek into the world of the fan band tomorrow night then.
Love it. All right. Well, final question, and it's more of just a message, because you have so many fans still that still can sing every single word of your guys' songs. A lot of people that are my age, maybe a little older. What message do you have for them? Because this may be the first time they're actually seeing you talk about it in years. What would you say to all those fans out there?
Message meaning like what?
Just like a
what
shout
kind of
out.
a shout out? Yeah, I mean the fact that I don't even want to count the amount of years, but however many there have been that have passed since then, and that we're still here and we're still talking, and there's, I mean, even the interest in hearing about me or from me is super, super cool, and I really appreciate. Um, and you know, it's just all love. You know, I got a lot of love for you know all of you for the people who have supported me and for the people who have been with me this whole time, have grown with me. I mean, it's really gotten to the point where a majority of the quote unquote fans that I have are like we're friends really at this point. I mean, you know, I've got a handful who have my cell phone number and text me, and you know, we grew up together. I mean, we were like young teenagers. Now we're in our 30s. The Zoom meeting.
I can still hear you. I think the video just went out.
Oh, and yeah, just you know, I really appreciate the support. It does make a huge difference. And you know, I guess my message in a nutshell would be, I got a lot of love for you. Thank you so much.
Oh, love that. And I know people will definitely appreciate hearing it. Well, Greg, thank you. Oh, you're back. Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you so much for hopping on the show. I know it went from day to night this whole time we've been talking. So I appreciate you doing this into the night for me.
Problem. My pleasure. Thank you so much for reaching out. It's an honor to be here. And, you know, much love. Stay safe out there.